Welcome back into Momentous Struggle. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Star Wars Shatterpoint This Party's Over Squad pack, which features Mace Windu. At the time of this recording, which is July 20th, we have gotten news that the release that was intended for August 4th for this particular squad pack has been delayed until September 30th as of this recording. There was a delay for the Grievous box, which ended up only being a week long, so maybe something will work out to where this box comes out in closer to its initial release date, but we don't know about that. This also is going to impact the Mother Talzin box, but we do have all of the information as far as the characters are concerned, so I wanted to go ahead and put out a video about that in anticipation to the release of these particular boxes. Like I said, hopefully everything works out and we get these boxes a little bit earlier, but I'll just anticipate that we're not going to see this one until the end of September. So let's jump in there and take a look at this box though. So as I stated, this box features Mace Windu. Basically, he is the second in command of the Jedi Order at the time of the Clone Wars. He is the more outspoken, more angry of the Jedis, as from what we see. I mean, and that is fitting with who played him in the movies, being Samuel L. Jackson. He was a very angry man in most of his characters that he plays. So it was fitting to see good old Samuel L. Jackson playing Mace. But he is the second in command, of course, of the Jedi Order, a very skilled fighter, and he is very powerful in the Force, and we can see that by the way that he is represented with his Force. So let's go ahead and take a look at his ability card and how he is being represented in this particular game. Jedi Master Mace Windu. Jedi Master Mace Windu is interesting. He comes with a very unique squad point that we haven't quite seen yet, coming in with 6 squad points and 4 Force. Basically, I think this is their way of showing that he is strong in the Force, but not quite as strong as having to be able to command other soldiers. So he only is going to be able to take, at this point, a 3 for a primary or a secondary, and a 3 for a 3 for his supporting unit. So I do believe that is kind of the way that they have offset the amount of Force that Jedi Mace Windu is going to be getting. But he does also come with 11 stamina, 3 durability, so he is pretty solid as far as primary units go. There's only one unit that has more stamina than he does, and that is Vader. He is a primary unit. He does have the tags of Force User, Galactic Republic, Jedi, and he is Clone Wars era. So he is a very unique character. I do like some of the abilities that he has. I think there is going to be a little bit of a hindrance in your squad with the fact that he only was bringing 6 squad points, and of that 6 squad points, there is only one secondary at this point in time that is going to be 3 points, so you are forced to bring the secondary that is going to be coming with it in this particular Force. But you also do have a choice of a couple of different secondary or supporting units, with the ones that are going to come in this box, as well as maybe the 501st. I think the ones in this unit are going to be a little bit better than the ones that were than the 501st, but we'll definitely jump into that as we go as we talk about the supporting units that are in this particular box. But let's jump into his ability. So he has a tactic ability of Rush to Action. Basically, at the start of his activation, you can choose another Galactic Republic unit. Then each character in this unit, which is Mace Windu, and the character that you chose, and each character in the chosen unit may make a dash. So if you're choose, and there's no range on this, which is very, very good. So you can have someone on the other side of the board that is going to be able to take movement out of this, and it is each character in the chosen unit. So if you choose a clone unit, both characters in that clone unit can move. So you can potentially be moving 3 models off of this activated ability. So I like this ability. I like out of activation movement, and like I think anybody that's listened to my channel for a little while has definitely noticed. So I do like that this is going to help that, and you don't get a lot of activation movement from in the clones right now. In the clone synergies, there's a little bit, but not as much as I would like to see. Not like you have with Kalani and with Kraken in the droid. So this is a nice little added feature that I like there. He has one reactive ability. It is called Tempered Aggression. When a unit in this, when a character in this unit makes an attack, after all the dice are rolled, both attack and defense. So, based off of the wording on this, I'm going to say that this is before the modified dice step or during the modified dice step. This unit may spend any number of force to use this ability. They can reroll one failure result in their attack roll for each force spent. So this definitely helps you to get through all the way through your stance trees. When we're looking at one of his stance trees, it actually has a full 6 steps on it. So definitely this is going to come in handy when trying to get all the way down that force tree. Again, this is going to be a lot of force. You could spend a lot of force on this. So managing your force pool is going to be very important when taking into account this ability, especially with like clones, because your clones are definitely going to be wanting to take advantage of their defensive maneuvers as much as possible too. So you're not really going to want to use too much force, but this can be a strong ability depending on how far down that tree you want to go. He has one innate ability. It is called Shatterpoint. This one is really unique. So basically, when you activate Mace Windu using your Shatterpoint card, is when this innate ability comes into play. If he is on his Form 7 side, his Form 7 Vapad side, he immediately makes a focus action, and then the character has Impact 2. So Impact 2 is really an interesting ability here. So basically what Impact is when a character makes a focus action, it adds X dice, X being 2 in this case, to its next melee attack in addition to the 1 dice added from the focus action. So you have to make a focus action, but it automatically happens. So basically in this particular situation, you're going to be adding 3 dice to your attack roll on this, and we can definitely get into that stance card and how this impacts that stance card when we start talking about that one. But so on the flip side, if he's on his Jedi Master side, you refresh 2 force and heal 3. So you're going to have some forethought when you utilize this character on what you're wanting to do. Are you wanting him to be able to be a beater and throw a lot of extra dice, or are you wanting him to be able to heal and do some like a recovery as well as refresh some force? It's really you're going to have some forethought as far as which side you're wanting him to be on prior to activating him. So keep that in mind if and when you are going to be playing Mace Windu. His last ability is called This Party's Over. This is his identity. While a character in this unit is engaged, Allied Galactic Republic characters within range 5 have Steadfast and Protection. So again, Steadfast can't be pushed off of a point with the first shove. Protection, they reduce 1 damage from the damage pool before applying it. So he makes all of the other characters around him better, and it's just Galactic Republic. It can be primaries, secondaries, or supporting units. There's not a stipulation on that. They just have to have Galactic Republic. And range 5 is pretty solid. If you have him, say, on that point that's right in the center, he pretty much is going to be just about in range of most people. So I think he's going to be pretty good. And you are going to want him. He's a Jedi. He's a lightsaber wielding character. So he's not going to be having any of those ranged attacks. So he is definitely worth having it up there in the fight, engaged, so that you can take advantage of this identity ability. But that is Mace Windu as far as his ability card. Let's take a look at his stance card. He has, of course, 2 sides to a stance card, being a primary. So let's take a look at the first side. And here is Mace Windu's Form 7 Vapad. This is a very interesting stance tree and stance card for a couple of different reasons. So it starts out with he has no ranged attack, which was kind of to be expected. He has 7 dice on his melee side and 5 across the board for ranged and melee attacks. If you activated him using the Shatterpoint card, that 7 turns into 10 attack dice, which will definitely help to try and get to the end of total his total tree. That's important because basically outside of Darth Vader, he can one-shot any character utilizing the full range of this Form 7 tree, because he does a total of 11 damage on this. If he were to go on the high side with his tree, that does also put a disarm and a reposition on there. Now you can also go the way of putting more conditions on it. You would be reducing damage by 3, but if you were to go the full route with that, you'd be able to put a strain, expose, and a pin on a character. So, and you can do any combination of that in between too. So you can change your damage to put conditions and things along those lines, mixing and matching. So I like this tree. The ability to put almost, well, basically you could potentially put all 4 conditions onto a character. I do definitely like that, as well as being able to put a fair amount of damage. And that last, being able to reposition, is always a nice action. Another additional movement that can be done. I guess it's not a movement action, but it is moving your model. So an additional way to move your model to a different location is always nice. His lightsaber basically is pretty straightforward as far as the expertise chart is concerned. 1 to 2 gives you 1 crit, 3 to 4 gives you 2 crits, 5 plus is going to get you 3 crits. So basically it's 1, 2, 3 as far as crits go down the tree. I like that. I like being able to, and crits don't get reduced, so it is definitely going to be able to help, or you can't get blocked unless they get reduced. So it definitely is going to help you push that damage through and push your way down that tree. As far as his aggressive defense for his defensive expertise chart, 1 is going to get you a block and it reduces a critical to a regular hit. 2 to 3 is going to get you 2 blocks, and again that reduction from a regular, or from a critical just to a regular hit. 4 plus gets you 2 blocks, that same reduction, as well as a reposition. So I do like that. Again, out of activation movement basically at this point in time for him being able to reposition, then, which is that long range tool of movement, which is really nice. So that is the Form 7. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Jedi Master side of his stance tree. And here's the Jedi Master stance card. This one, again, a little bit more defensive focused based on looking just at the dice that you're rolling. He still does not have a range attack. He is going to have a 6 dice melee attack, and then 6 across the boards for ranged and melee for his defensive dice. He only has 5 down the tree on this particular side of his stance card, but keep in mind this one, if he is activated out of the Shatterpoint card, this is the one that allows you to refresh 2 force and make 3 heals. So definitely the healing support side of his card, especially in relation to that Shatterpoint ability, innate ability that he has. But looking at his tree, the most damage you're going to be able to get out of him, no matter if you go top or bottom, is going to be a total of 8. I take that. Yeah, 8 damage. There is a lot of shoves on here. Or movement. There's potentially up to 3 shoves or up to 2 shoves and a jump. So definitely a lot of movement. And depending on which go, you could potentially put an expose on the character as well. You would be reducing some of the damage taken in order to do that if you go all the way down the tree. But definitely an interesting tree, but I think you're really looking to stay on this side of the tree, use this side simply for the Shatterpoint abilities of refreshing the force. Looking at his expertise chart, the lightsaber side is identical to the Form 7 side, which is the 1, 2, 3 for your criticals based off of 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and 5 plus. The aggressive defense expertise chart is a little different. 1 is going to get you a block and reduces a hit to a failure. 2 to 3 gets you a block, reduces a crit to a failure, and reduces a hit to a failure. And 4 plus gets you a block, reducing that crit to a failure again, reducing the regular hit to a failure again, and getting a jump. So a little bit more reduction and more stronger reductions, taking those reductions from straight to failures instead of just regular hits. So again, much more defensive oriented on this side. Definitely is going to help out quite a bit on that piece of it. So I definitely like this side if you are trying to just hold a point. But if you're trying to go on the aggressive side, you definitely want to be on that Form 7 side. That's where a lot more damage is going to be going at. That's where a lot more just power is going to be coming out when you're just looking to hit somebody. More damage, more conditions. Where the Jedi Master side is more about movement and just staying on a point, like trying to protect yourself. So again, like most of the cards that we've seen to this point in time with the primaries or with their stance cards, one seems to be more offensive focused, one seems to be more defensive focused. This seems to be the more defensive focused side. So that is Mace Windu. Let's take a look at who he is bringing along with him in this box as his secondary. So in the Mace Windu box, this party's over box, we have Commander Pons as the supporting unit. Now Pons doesn't have the notoriety that most of the other characters are going to be having. He isn't Rex, he isn't Cody, so he isn't as well known, but he is a clone commander. He does serve under General Mace Windu and with the 91st Reconnaissance Corps. So he is a very seasoned clone trooper. He is a second generation, so basically very early clone. He did fight in the first battle of Geonosis, so he can be seen in the Clone Wars movie at the end during the Battle of Geonosis. He is also seen a handful of times in the Clone Wars series. Not too much. I mean, basically, in most of the cases, it's going to be when you are seeing Mace Windu in that particular series. So, not a lot of notoriety for him, but he is an old school clone. Definitely a good fighter for. I mean, you have to be in order to fight side by side with Mace Windu. So this is Commander Pons, and let's take a look at what he brings to the game. Commander Pons is bringing something unique that we have not seen yet, and he is a secondary unit with 3 squad points. So this is CT 411 Commander Pons. He has 0 force, 7 stamina, 2 durability. He is a secondary unit with the tags of Clone Commando, Clone Trooper, Galactic Republic, and he is from the Clone Wars era. He has 3 different abilities, one being an activated ability and 2 innates. So he doesn't have a lot of the defensive maneuvers or something along those lines, but again, he's coming at 3 squad points, so he's not going to have a lot of those abilities that we're used to seeing on other clone commanders. His first ability is going to be charge. At the start of his activation, you choose another Galactic Republic character. They make a dash movement. Pretty standard for most of our secondary clones that we have seen, with having some sort of an activated movement ability, just like kind of like Rex has. Not Cody, not so much, but it is a good ability, and I do like it. But that is the only activated ability he has. Active ability that he has. So, looking at the rest of his abilities, though, we see that there is no active or reactive abilities that he has. It is just innates. So it does make him a little less desirable. But at this point in time, if you're going to be playing Mace, you're going to have to take pawns with you. So there is a trade-off here. Looking at it, his first innate is incoming. Allied clone troopers within 3 that have 1 or more hunker tokens have immunity to expose, which is really nice. Expose is a very strong condition, so having the immunity to that is really nice. Range 3 isn't the greatest, but basically that just means you're going to have him kind of in a mid-range position so that he can be providing that immunity to the other clone troopers out there. Biggest problem I see here, like I said, is that range is only to clone troopers. So there's a couple of drawbacks to that, and they have to have the hunker token as well. So you're definitely going to have to take advantage of those defensive maneuvers. I I think this would pair really well with General Kenobi because you don't lose the hunker tokens when they become engaged. So being able to keep those hunker tokens and being able to keep that immunity, I think is going to be important. So on the outset, I mean, if I'm going to be bringing pawns and I'm to take full advantage of everything that he has to offer, I think you want to really bring Kenobi along with him. I mean, he might be a good pairing. Looking at overall, if you were going to bring Anakin, maybe put him with Anakin instead of Rex, might be a way to go. That way, you can use one of the 4 squad point secondary or supporting units. Good to be seen. I'll have to think about that. Definitely, we'll be having another Strike Force video coming out in regards to how I might build differently with some of these guys. So, just something I'm keeping in mind, rolling around in my head. And so that is his incoming. On the other ability, innate ability that he has is Forward Scouts. When deploying a squad that includes, no, it is a squad, not your whole strike force, but the squad that includes this unit, allied clone trooper secondary units characters and allied trooper supporting characters may be placed within 2 of the first placed character from the squad's primary unit instead of the normal one. That's a mouthful. Basically, what it's saying is, when you go ahead and deploy, you're going to place your primary unit, and then typically you place the other units within range 1. In this case, you're going to be using range 2. So instead of that 1 inch, you're looking at 3 inches of placement for your initial deployment for just that particular squad. So if you have a squad that you want to get your secondaries or your support, not your secondary, but your supporting units as far forward as possible, this might help because it helps to get them farther advanced than they would normally get. So I think I like this ability. I like how it's giving you a little bit more range as far as movement is concerned. So you're not, because since you're starting a little farther forward. So Pons does bring a couple of interesting abilities into the fold. But at 3 points, he's still going to be lacking from the normal secondaries that we have seen. So there is a little bit of a downgrade here with that lack of that squad point. But I think there's definitely a place for him, especially with having second or primary units that have 7 squad points and 6 squad points like Mace. So having a 3-point secondary, he just is going to automatically have a place in team strike force construction. When you're looking at it, I think you can't discount him. He just isn't going to be exactly what you're looking for. But like I said, I think there's a place for him. But that is his ability card. Let's look at what he has on his stance card. So stance card related, here is what we have for the Commander Pons. He has Superior Recon. He does have a range 5 attack with 6 dice. So looks like that's probably where you're going to want to say you're getting a little more. You're getting 1 extra dice on the range attack. He does have 5 in melee, so that's not too bad. And he has his 5 dice across the board defensive rolls. Looking at his tree, it's pretty lackluster. Only 4 total down the board. At most, you're doing 7 damage. He has 1 displacement with a shove, or he can reposition depending on which way you want to go, and he can either disarm or he can pin depending on which way down the track you go. So not a lot of damage. I mean, you're really kind of bringing him for his innate abilities is really the way that I look at it. That out of activation movement with his charge ability is okay, but you're really just bringing him for those 2 innate abilities, I think, more than anything, and the fact that he might fill a different need as far as strike force and squad construction. Looking at his different expertise charts, he has his DC 15S blaster, and that is basically at 1 to 3 just 2 hits. 4 plus is 2 crits. He also has his blaster in melee, which is going to get you a crit and a hit, and then 2 crits at 1 to 3, that is, and then 4 plus 2 crits. He has his phase 2 clone armor on his defensive expertise start. 1 to 2 gets you a block. 3 plus gets you 2 blocks. So again, not the greatest, but again fills the need. So that is overall our CT411 Commander Pons. I do like him. I think, like I said, I do feel he fits a need that we have in the game. We have needed a secondary that was not a 4-cost secondary, so he's definitely going to fill that need. Is he not strong enough? Would it be better to take a 4-cost and a 3-second and a supporting unit? I think there's some testing that needs to be done there. We could definitely take a look at that. I think he definitely brings a lot of interesting questions to your strike force construction, and there it gives you more ability to be a little bit more flexible with your construction. And I think that's most importantly what we're getting out of Mr. Pons here. So let's go ahead and take a look at who is coming with Commander Pons. And lastly, we do have the ARF Troopers that are coming with here. They are the Advanced Recon Force Troopers. They are going to be a 3-cost. We can basically just devise that from looking at the primary and secondary unit. So I don't think the ARF Troopers are going to get the treatment that anyone who is more familiar with the lore would expect, because the ARF Troopers are more survivable, they have more intelligence, they're better trained than the typical average clone. So lore wise, they are going to be better than your typical 501st to 12th troopers. They're going to have, typically they wore more advanced armor. They carry rocket launchers, things along those lines. So they are much more of an advanced type of trooper. Coming in at 3 points, I don't think that's going to be reflected on in this game, and that's okay. I mean, coming in at 3 points, having another 3-point unit is fine. I just think that we're not if you're coming in expecting them to be equivalent to something that you might have seen in the Clone Wars series, you're probably going to be a little disappointed. But let's take a look at them. I think they are going to have something to offer, so but they're just not maybe going to. They might just be falling short. They're falling short of my expectations of when I first heard ARF Trooper, but that's not a big deal. It's just I'll just duo with a different character. So in some cases, but let's take a look at them. So the ARF Troopers come in, like I said, with a 3 squad points, 0 force, 7 stamina, 2 durability. They're going to be a supporting unit. They have the tags of ARF, Clone Troopers, Galactic Republic, and Trooper, and their Clone Wars era. So they do have those tags. Again, I think they're going to be coming up a little short, but they do have some pretty decent abilities. They do have your typical defensive maneuver, so they are going to be able to get that hunker token by doing that. With that additional dash that they get to do. They do have their coordinated fire, which puts expose on. So I do like a coordinated fire that does expose. I do like expose is, again, one of my favorite conditions to put on someone simply because of what it does. And if you are unfamiliar with coordinated fire, basically when another Galactic Republic makes an attack, as long as a character in this unit is within range 5, you can use this ability. It doesn't cost a force as long as they are not wounded, of course. So it starts out at 0, but can go up to 1 and 2 depending on their particular the number of wounds or injuries that they have. So you can go ahead and put the expose on there. They do also have their brother in arms innate ability, which is, well, this unit has 1 or more hunger tokens. It also has steadfast. So again, ties into that synergy that you have with the hunger tokens which makes Obi-Wan such a good unit. And takes advantage of that synergy. So definitely takes that into account, but a lot of the clones already have that ability as well. The last innate ability that they have is Lay Low. When a character in this unit rolls defensive dice during a range attack, if it has 1 or more expert or hunger tokens, you add expertise to the roll. So I take this as expertise count as blocks is the way that I am going to interpret this rule. I haven't been able to find anything on the rules forums in regards to that. And at this point in time, we haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything on the FAQ, an updated FAQ, to take this into account. So if that's not correct, I'm sure someone is definitely going to let me know in the comments if I am interpreting this particular rule and the way it's written incorrectly. It's it seems like it's lacking just a little bit more clarity, but that could just be me and my interpretation. I'm definitely not flawless in that matter. So, but that's how I'm taking it. So it looks like you're able to have, and I think that might be how we can definitely add into that updated armor that they have. But again, you have to have a hunker token. So you're either taking, you're probably having to take your defensive maneuver in order to do that to have this in place. But you're also wanting to keep them back so that they're not getting engaged, because this is only useful against ranged attacks, not in melee. So that's going to be, I think, the running theme along with most of our supporting units that we've seen up until this point, except for maybe the Mandalorian Commandos. Most don't like being in combat. Oh, and the Magna Guard as well, because they just don't have range attacks. So again, they're going to want to kind of be back doing their gunline thing and not getting engaged, so they can keep that hunker token if you're not bringing Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that is the ability card for the ARF clone troopers. Let's take a look at their stance card. And finishing everything out here, we have their stance card. They have Recon Force, not to be confused with our boys Force Recon from the Marine Corps. And so what we're looking at here, they, like I was saying, they definitely want to be in a ranged attack because they're rolling 7 dice at range compared to 5 in melee. 4 across the board for their defensive dice, no matter if they're ranged or melee. But for offensive output, you're really going to want to have them in the ranged attack style there. So overall, they're not throwing out a lot of damage. If you go down their tree, if you go to the downside, you're only going 3 down the tree. So maximum damage is going to be only 5 damage that these guys are going to put out if they get all the way down their tree. They do put some conditions out. They can either put a pin or and expose, or a pin and a disarm, depending on which way down the chart you have. And they have just 1 displacement with 1 shove, which if you're playing against clones and they have steadfast, it isn't going to do anything for you anyway. No one's really moving. So I do, like, it's a little lackluster when we're looking at the Force Recon, the ARF Troopers and what they're bringing. Falling a little short from what I would have liked to see with them, but I think at 3 points, this is about the best we're going to get. Looking at their expertise chart, on the DC-15A blaster rifles, 1 to 2 is going to get you just a regular hit. 3 is going to get you a critical and a hit. 4+ is going to get you 2 criticals. Again, not the greatest, but that's what we're going to get with a 3 points supporting unit. At melee, they just have bash. 1 gets you a hit. 2+ gets you 2 hits. So really just wanting to stay out of melee range with these guys. They're just not that good at melee. You really need to keep them at range. So using your movement, your defensive maneuvers to probably just stay back, but in a good position to be able to fire on the opposing units without putting yourself in a position to where you're going to get engaged is probably the best way to go here. Defensively, on their defensive chart, phase 2 clone armor, 1 to 2 is going to get you a block. 3+ gets you 2 blocks. Again, not the greatest, but for a 3-point cost, they're not too bad either. But that is the ARF Clone Troopers and what their cards look like. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. So overall, there's a lot of good and a lot not so good that is coming along with this particular squad pack. I like Mace. He's pretty unique in the fact that he's only 6 squad points. He has some pretty interesting abilities that are definitely going to be worth putting on the table and giving a chance to and playing with. That said, Pons has a great ability, but he's coming in at 3 points, so he's not going to be the best. But like I said, he does have a place in squad and strike force construction. The ARF Troopers, I don't know if they're really worth taking, in all honesty. I don't know if it's worth taking them over the 501st. I don't see them being much of an upgrade. They might be worth taking. There is definitely a couple of different abilities that might make them worthwhile. That really is going to come to your particular playstyle compared to and how you want to utilize them. Personally, I don't know if I'm going to be bringing them unless, like I said, I don't know if I'd be taking them over the 501st. It's hard to say. They're good, just nothing spectacular. They might have a little bit more durability, and that's going to come with testing. I think I'll have to test out and see what they have to do. But that said, that's kind of my video for the day. As always, if you want to help support me, like, subscribe, ring that bell to let you know anytime any new videos get uploaded. I do appreciate each and every one of you, and may the force be with you.